All right, let's get this started soon. What you're actually currently watching is a bunch of B-roll that I did. Well, this is all stuff that I shot, but I threw this together because if you go to the Fifth Square website, it's the background for their loading screen, essentially. So I'm glad to help out. Starting in just a sec. We'll see what a midday stream is like, because usually I do it at night, and that's usually when most people are watching, but I need to find a better day to stream, so we're figuring it out. But the midday ones, I don't know how often I'll do these, but we'll see. Yeah, happy Juneteenth, and if you're American, some of you get the day off, if you're a government employee, especially. But yeah, let's switch over to that so you can see me. Hello. I have a slightly different setup. We also have my laptop is currently doing a little bit more heavy duty lifting because the other computer was struggling, to say the least, the last time. So we have you guys on chat here, so you can see yourself in the stream, but I also have it in front of me so I don't have to look behind me constantly. But yeah, this is, you were listening to a set by Underworld, if you've ever heard them. They're British DJs. Commonly referenced in Pink Panthers nowadays, most people know. Or in the movie Trainspotting and Hackers. But yeah. Let me turn that off. And with this setup, it allows me to actually do stuff on my main computer a lot easier because I can log into my main accounts and not have to be on the second channel on the main computer. But let's see. Let's raise this up slightly. All right. So let's see what y'all have in chat. And also 58 or 3258 isn't bad for midday. But yeah, working on a few things. It's been definitely a chaotic week, which I wish I got more done, but I've been definitely running around a lot, to say the least. Frame rate is a bit rough. Well, let me see. Mess around with the camera settings because I reset the camera. Ooh. Unless it's just not going to do that. Okay. I don't know why it would be here. I can also switch it to, or if that camera is just going to be bad, we'll make another camera device. Switch it to the webcam. Webcam doesn't look as good, but it can work for now. Let me mute that one. Why is this? Okay. There we go. Definitely not as good looking as the Fuji, but it works. Oops. Let's see. Move that slightly so we can see chat. Okay. Yeah, the Fuji I've been trying to use, which is my nicer camera, but once in a while, if it's not tuned in or dialed in super correctly, it can be a little bit odd. So we'll switch it to the webcam for now, unless I think it's the lighting. The lighting might be affecting it. I got a new light bulb for my one, whatchamacallit, stage light. So I can do things like change the color now. So if I want to be angry, I can change it to red or green. We can now do. Well, the webcam doesn't really show it off that well, but we're changing colors and then change it back to normal. Yeah, that CRT has a funny story. It's my friend Harrison works at a college for AV equipment stuff, and apparently they were just throwing out a bunch of stuff, including PVMs like that in a bigger one. And so he took like a picture of these. He's like, "Would you want these or anything?" And I was like, "Why are you throwing those out? Do you know how much those are worth, right?" And he's like, "No." And so I was like, "No, you have to save those." And so we got those, and then he also, their college was throwing out a bunch of those old like Mac towers, like the Mac Pros that had like the cheese grater sides to them. And I was just like, why did, like, just try to look up the prices of these things before you throw them out, because like the college could actually make some money back on these things. But let's see, what do these things mean? Oh, okay. CRT needs to be closer to screen to function actual readable chat. Yeah, no, the webcam is definitely not the best quality. And what I'll probably do in the future is I'll probably, whatchamacallit, I'll probably edit sort of a different stream on the side for the comments, but usually when I switch over to the desktop setup, which I actually need to set up because I reinstalled OBS because I wanted to see, I wanted to get that working correctly. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let me add myself back. Add existing, this one. Yes, there's me. Put myself up and over here, and then we'll do, or maybe in the bottom. And then we'll do, because I reinstalled OBS and usually I have all my scenes set up, but I guess I forgot to do the one for browser. And then let me get the chat. Let me get the chat with you guys so we can actually see that. Oh. Main thing I just always have to make sure is that there's no overlap in pop out chat, please. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. I'm reading. Are you going to do a video on the purple line? Yes, when it's complete. Let's see. Browser. Chat. Whoop. That is not what I want. Thank you, OBS. Or no. We don't want that, actually. Go away. Add source. Window capture. There we go. Much better. I'll have to tailor that later, but it is now there. And then what we want to do is go back here to the browser and say window capture. There we go. But put this on the bottom so I'm on top. There we go. All set up. Let's see the chat. Yes. No, OBS has been... thoughts? I thought you were going to make a sound transit video. Yes, I'm still making that. Actually, let me show you some fun stuff for that one sec. So let me go through my files. Because I can show you guys some of the stuff that I did capture while I was there. And some of the things that I did. Where is my sound transit folder? Seattle and sound transit. There we go. So we can start with these. Let me throw these in a VLC playlist. Okay. And now switch back. There we go. So we got some fun clips from Seattle. Need your dream map for DC Metro sometime. Yeah, I need to do work on that because I'm going to be in DC a lot more. Anyway, this is some of the footage that I captured when I was in Seattle for the Sound Transit opening. There was a lot of people, a lot of people at this event. You can see the line wraps around like all the way over here to this, like, essentially they're letting some people down at a time so the platforms wouldn't be like too crowded. And yeah, this is just when I was trying to get some footage for the actual video, which you will see. I also did an edit, actually to Underworld, if you saw that on Insta or TikTok or wherever the shorts are posted, or this channel. But yeah, Lake Washington's pretty cool, and this is the new Line 2, or 2 Line, which is annoyingly what they call it, in Seattle. And you can see a train is like right here coming. Oh, there's another one. This is the one I got that was kind of nice with the crossing. People are kind of shitting on it a little because they were like, oh, the trains only go 55 miles an hour. The cars can go like 60, 70, and so they're passing it. And it's like, yeah, but not at rush hour. At rush hour, there is maybe 40 mile an hour, maybe 30 mile an hour traffic on these roads or highways going into Seattle or out of Seattle. So the train is a huge improvement. But yeah, this is, I wish my drone, I have a tiny one, it's a little Mavic Air. So it's a small one, so it can't go too fast. I do have I used to fly race drones. Need to get back into that because that would actually keep up. But these little guys are much more easy to pack and travel with, and much more in the yes thumbs up area for legal matters. Because when you get over 250 grams, the FAA starts getting annoyed if you fly in certain locations. The NIMBYs in Virginia Beach keep voting down. Yeah, that one needs to happen at some point. I should cover the Tide because that's one of the lesser talked about light rail systems. Yes, train to Virginia Beach would be cool, especially because you could, I think, transfer off of Amtrak to it, right? I think because like Amtrak only goes. No, there is a train. There is one regional I think goes to Newport. The rest go to Norfolk. The rest go to Newport News. FPV is crazy expensive with tariffs. You can still make it pretty cheap if you're willing to build your own. The smallest of local YouTubers covering the Tide. I saw a video on it. Also, this is a pocket track here for storing extra trains in rush hour, if you're wondering why there's 3. This is the one over in South Bellevue, this station. And the funniest part about this is, like, okay, there's houses on this side, right? This is a blueberry farm. So if you really want, you can take the train and walk through this little pathway over to the blueberry farm. Maybe not the best use of transit-oriented development, but it's at least a park and ride and also a bus terminal, so people get dropped off here and it has decent ridership. But like the train goes further up to Bellevue and actually where the downtown is. But I just thought that was really funny. Light rail using old railroad right-of-way severely underrated, not the best example. Yeah, no, I think light rail using old railroad right-of-ways is fine as long as the right-of-way is not super conducive with regional rail, if that makes sense. Or regional rail is just not going to happen in the next like 30, 40 years. You can convert it to light rail, I don't care. Because some American cities are just not going to build regional rail or don't have the capacity to. So I'd rather just there be a transit mode than no transit mode. But I do have reservations about the future of a build out of some sort because, like, I'm a big fan of the Glassboro Camden line, for example, that's going to be hopefully built using DMUs, like Stadler DMUs, but it's being built to a low platform level standard and some other different weird standards instead of normal high platform regular regional rail stations, which at some point you could theoretically build a tunnel under the Delaware and integrate it with the rest of SEPTA. But that's so far off. I'd rather there just be a train in the first place and it be running than plan way for the future that might not happen. Thought you said having farms near cities rather than sprawl is good. Some kind of. I know that's sarcasm, but like it is actually a good thing if you're able to make a dense enough city that farmland is within reach of transit. Like that should technically be what you strive for. Um, Speaking of drones, I need to get one too, but need to get my Part 107. Any tips on that? Just get really good at reading aeronautical maps. Know what class B, C, D airspace is. D airspace for Philly is mostly everywhere. C airspace and A are like the really A and B are the really like don't go near airspace. And basically that kind of stuff, and then just know the general rules and laws of like altitude stuff. There is more stuff to the Part 107, but I haven't touched that in a long time, so I don't know, because I did part of my pilot's license, probably like 80% of my pilot's license, and stopped for a long time ago for various reasons, so I often confuse the two with each other. Um, let's see. But yeah, there's the other shot of the station. So you can see on this side, it's just all marshland. There's a highway in the background. And on this side is like the neighborhood that you can sort of get to, but the neighborhood's very suburban on this. Sound Transit, I don't exactly like that they use light rail because most of their infrastructure is light metro or metro level infrastructure. Like, oh my God, their track quality is way better than some of like actual metro lines I've seen. But they do run 3-4 car light rail vehicles, so it's like the trains they're running is basically metro level anyway at this point. And they're really stuck with the light rail vehicles because there's one part of the network that they run that is at street level. Shout out Burlington. Yeah, Burlington, New Jersey is pretty cool. That whole stretch of towns, Burlington, Roebling, Bordentown, very cool. Kind of shot themselves in the foot making the street running sections. Yeah, especially, well, they could make a bypass. I think at some point that might be the case. They're building light rail all the way to Tacoma is insane. They should be building, yeah. Oh, hi, Kaylee. Well, the sounder is getting worked on. It's just should be better. And also the state should just take over the right of way. Only problem is that one tram type Stadler is well suited for tram running. Yes, the Stadler stuff is not bad, especially the fact that you can usually there is a tram train version of some of the Stadler stuff. I think someone else makes that stuff too. I think Skoda or someone. They should at least consider getting more suitable trams for Link that are fully walk through, kind of like Frankfurt. Crabless middle sections. They do have like these are or come on, go past the drone. So they do have like a multi-segment light rail vehicle design where you can walk through this, but obviously it's not the whole thing. The New Jersey Transit one, on the other hand, is like if we go to hold on, go back to me for a sec, and then go to. Because if NJT has maybe what you're talking about, they have multi-segment connected trains for light rail. Where is a picture of that? There we go. So like NJT has like a version of that, what you're thinking of, where it's a you have a 3-segment, not just 2-segment train. So we do have them in the U.S. They're definitely not as common as just the 2-section, or I guess this is counting the mill 3 section versus a 5 section one. But the Seattle one's fine, honestly, for now. Yeah, eventually needs some work. Let me go through some of the, or let me look through some of the other files I have for the sound transit stuff, because I need to remember what I can show, what I can't. Or we'll do all the outside ones for the opening day stuff. Let me open all those up. I was also allowed to go on some of the press trains, so I was allowed to get a little behind the scenes, which was kind of fun. And so I will have all of that. Here, we'll go back to desktop. I was also able to ride on the press trains. They would open the door so we could shoot through the front of the train, which was kind of cool, before like anyone was riding it. I'm surprised City Nerd hasn't made a video transit connections to music festivals. Yeah. I mean, that could be an interesting one. I know, honestly, unironically, a good music festival that I saw that was transit connected was the one that was in Salt Lake City. Also, this is how many people were at that opening of the Line 2 stuff. A lot. Also, another cab ride video. This is going back into downtown Seattle. You're currently going under that one bridge with the trolley buses that goes up to where that weirder hospital is. I forget. It's not a hospital anymore, but this used to be a busway until they converted it to light rail. So that's why some of the infrastructure is wider than it needs to be. Shuttle bus route called Line 666. That's good. Utah bought some Stadler City Links. Yes, I'll be looking forward to see what those are like, because there's probably going to be a lot of other customers for those if they work out well. Here's the footage from the riding the Line 2. Kaylee and I had a very funny interaction. One of the someone saw us talking about, I guess, all the details of the train line, and he ended up being the actual engineering oversight guy for the entire project. So that was a very funny person to talk to, because he was kind of excited that we sort of sounded or knew what we were like talking about versus the average person, I think. Yeah, it's definitely, if this was any other system, this would be a metro. It's like way overbuilt for light rail, but for the amount of people that are probably going to be using this, it's probably needed. This is also stupid. We went to Mercer Island, and then it got essentially closed down, the festival, even before we got there. Should have built a great society system. I mean, that's part of the video that I'm making about sound transit, is that it's about sort of what could have been, but also what's now happening, because a lot of people don't understand what's now happening, especially when it comes to the next line, which they're going to build to Ballard. A lot of people do not understand what's completely going on there. Also, they had like a bunch of stuff going on, including like a band at some of the station openings. And this is a maintenance facility tour, which I will have more footage of later, but very cool place. They allow me to go a little bit behind the scenes for stuff, so I'll be sharing that. Should have made the forward thrust. Yeah. Unfortunately, they needed a 60% majority, which is frustrating, instead of just over 50. Let's see. I don't think they're cutting features, but they don't have the money to do the whole thing right now for the Ballard light rail. So I have that, and then let me show you some other stuff that I worked on recently that I'm also putting into a video. I don't know how much I can show of this, but let me see. Yeah, I'll show some of this. because there's one or two videos in this that I cannot show. Um, Here. Whoop, there we go. Where is this? Can anyone tell me what this footage is of? Definitely not the same place as Seattle. Here, let me play some of these because I think I know which ones are the problem. Or the ones I can't show. Let's see, play. There we go. These are not the new Hudson River tunnels, but that's a close guess. Definitely not new infrastructure. Well, it's rehabbing old infrastructure. Yes, these are the East River Tunnel rehabs, or at least the one of them. I luckily was able to get let into it with like one or two other people just for a quick tour. Very cool. I think there. Yeah, here's a great shot using a telephoto. That stuff is old. Rehab. Yeah. Well, no, this is from April of this year, so it's only 2 months old. So they are finishing this up basically at this point, and I think it should go into service very soon, if it hasn't yet. But this one's coming after one or two of the other videos. Then it's putting together. But I'm this one's a bit hard to market, I guess, for YouTube because it's like it's really cool. This is really cool footage that no one else sees, but like very few people are going to be like, oh, I can't wait to watch a video about a tunnel. Like, I have to like somehow jazz it up, and I think the part of it is like explaining why some of the Amtrak trains were changed, I guess is the good word. So what they're doing here, this little doohickey up here that's coming down has a concrete a hopper in it for the slurry of concrete, and then they come down and they dump it, and then then what they're doing is smoothing it out and getting it to the right spot. So this goes up, gets the concrete, comes back down, dumps it. So they still have the rebuild going forward. Yeah, these are the East River tunnels. They only need to rebuild 2 out of the 4, because only 2 of them were actually really bad. But these are basically just rehabbing them to be slightly better. It's not really like changing the tunnel significantly. These are still the old cast iron ring tunnels that are from the early 1910s or I guess late 1905s or whatever. So they're not changing significantly in that capacity, but they had to be fixed because Superstorm Sandy basically corroded everything on the inside. These are the little strips that they're used for guiding you if the power goes out or if there's an emergency. You follow where the lights are going, and that's how you get out on an emergency exit. Yeah, no, these were some of the first. If it wasn't for the Hudson River tunnels, these were some of the first underwater heavy rail tunnels in the world. I think the only ones that predate this are ones in London. But even then, the ones in London weren't quite. They were different, to say the least. They weren't quite like these, where the Pennsylvania Railroad used cast iron ring systems like this and as significantly long. Because trains still do 80 miles an hour through these when they're in good condition or good rehab. I think the speed limit in certain spots is 60 to 80 miles an hour. So they can do 100 to 130 kilometers an hour through these usually. Still building the 13-mile underrail tunnel high-speed trains. Hey, that's a cool project, though. If you're talking about the one in what is that, between Sweden, Denmark, Germany, is that what you're talking about? East River Tunnels is 60. Okay, maybe I was hearing higher speeds because they might be able to go higher speeds after this rehab, but yeah, I think 60 is correct. Between Denmark and Sweden, yes. Denmark and Germany. Yeah, I remember reading a lot about that. They're making precast sections and then sinking them, and then taking the water out of them and then sealing them together one by one. Pretty cool. Yeah. So I guess Athena's correct. Is that like part of the way that I'm going to market this video is probably talking about why the Floridian exists, because it really only exists because this tunnel is out of service and the next one is going to be out of service when that gets rehabbed. The Floridian and some of the other what are they called? New York capital trains that go to Albany, the Empire Corridor trains, those were also changed because of this tunnel rehab, because they couldn't use Sunnyside as much as a turnaround point. So the video will probably be largely focusing on like how these tunnels affected Amtrak's sort of rescheduling of the network. Yeah, the Adirondack and Maple Leaf joining together, which was kind of really frustrating if one of them's late or significantly late. These have catenary. Yes, these have the Pennsylvania Railroad standard of 12.5 kilovolts at 25 hertz. For I don't know, just the reason they picked it. The Floridian is one of my favorite Amtrak trains. Well, I'm sorry. That's the Floridian. I think is the most routinely delayed now in the country, just because of how much it has to interact with. But yeah, this is a really cool project, which I will get to talking about. There's also another one which I might be able to show a little bit of that I finally need to finish, because I kind of put on the back burner for a while because there was a lot of controversy about it, and I needed to let the controversy pass, and then I could make the video. So let me show some of those clips, because I think some of these clips are not the greatest quality, but we can go and try anyway. So I didn't actually record these, but I did give one of my cameras to a friend, or I guess person that works at this agency. So let's see if you can figure out what agency this is that I worked with here. Superliners are kind of mid, honestly. At least the real Floridian can get its name if it comes back. Yes, agreed. Yes, this is SEPTA. There's the L. So this was recorded last year, actually the end of last summer. So this is August, September last summer when they were doing the trolley blitz. Originally, before they started having problems, I recorded this and was going to do a video about it. Let's go forward through these. Was going to do a video about it, but they started having problems with the overhead wire and the trolleys, and waiting for when they get the trams, the new Alstom vehicles at some point. So they started having issues, so I just avoided sort of the topic for a little bit, but now I'm back to working on this one. This is surprisingly decent footage for my secondary camera. My first camera is really nice and would have done this footage no problem, but my second camera was like a Sony, cheaper Sony, and it did all right. Like this is the flyover section where the trolley goes over the L, which is pretty neat. I feel bad because the camera I gave the guy that went down and recorded some of this, it had a 50mm lens on an ASPC lens, or sensor size, so it was zoomed in slightly more than I would have wanted, but it came out pretty good otherwise. Yeah, there's the L again. Here, let's go forward a little bit. We can see there's so some of the stuff they were working on was a lot of just the West Philly. Oh, there's the L. Yeah, so this is a lot of what they were working on. Is just a lot of the trolley tracks and everything. I should have gave my friend. I have a 28 millimeter, or 28 millimeter 2.8, but I gave him the 50 mil 1.7 because I was like, it's really dark down there. You need a lens that's as fast as possible. But the 28 probably would have done fine. Hello, hello. But yeah, this is all footage from that, so I'm putting together that video at some point. We also got to interview some people at the project site when we were there at the 40th Street portal when that was closed down. So this is meant to go in a video at some point. Any updates on the electrification series? I have to get through a few things, but that is being worked on in the background. There's a lot of writing that's going into this next section because it's about the 1970s and sort of alternate history stuff because of how the 70s could have gone and how there's a lot of, I guess, actually, let me see if I can go into, because I can at least show some of the stuff I'm talking about. Where is that folder? There it is. So a lot of the stuff I'll be talking about in this next one is about a lot of what ifs, essentially. Going to switches signals. I think especially, yeah, they're so right now, especially the Delco trolleys, the 101, 102, or whatever they're calling them now. Essentially, they put CBTC in them for new signaling stuff. And when they installed this, Hitachi, who was their contractor, essentially followed SEPTA's rules that SEPTA had in the rulebook about how fast you're supposed to go through switches and crossings and stuff like that. But what no one realized was that the rules were written and no one was following them. And these are rules from like 40, 50 years ago, when I think even the red arrow still existed. And so there were certain things like you have to, like, even the Red Arrow employees never followed this stuff. And CBTC for a tram, yes, because these go underground and essentially act as a subway. But essentially, a lot of the CBTC signaling and speeds got slightly, I wouldn't say screwed up, but they were just installed incorrectly and where they were almost too safe. Is the best way. So they slowed down a lot of stuff because they followed the rules too much is the best way to describe it. Where SEPTA needed to rewrite their rules to be more lenient versus the rules that they had written down from a long time ago that no one was really following, even for the timetables. So even that's why the Delco trolley significantly slowed down for that stuff. But they're fixing on it. They're working on it. They know it's an issue. But what is your take on the Rutgers bus system? I mean, half of the problem with the Rutgers bus system is they just need more bus, like, only streets and lanes, and that's the biggest issue. I don't know, see, yeah, it's a little delayed because it's my stream plus the delay of you guys chatting plus it getting back to you. So that's why there's a little bit delay of chat on the CRT versus when I have you guys up. What is... I rode the SEPTA trolley for the first time from 40th to City Hall, and there day, no idea it went so fast underground. Yeah, they can go up to, I think they used to go 45 in the section from 30th Street to City Hall. Fast enough where you can feel the trolley start to hunt a little bit, which is always kind of funny. Let's see, so yeah, a lot of the stuff I'll be talking about in this next electrification series is stuff like this, where at some point there was serious considerations for a lot of the class ones to electrify. So much so that builders actually came up with concept designs or concept images for some of that stuff. So I'll be talking a bit about that. There's one I've been trying to find, which is the Burlington Northern had some renders done for some of that stuff, and I can't find some of it, which is frustrating. But I did a lot of digging, so much so that we were able to scan some magazines and older articles, which I will be including into some of the videos. Where this is one that was in a Trainline magazine from 2004, and I luckily was able to find where those pictures are from. And all of the track diagrams and stuff like that that they were going to install, and the diagrams of like the catenary and stuff like that. So don't worry, I'm working on it. I'm putting a lot of effort into it. If you are in the Patreon, I have these uploaded. There's also another one, which I'm not going to share the whole thing, but because it's a lot. But my girlfriend found this one actually for me, which is really cool. This is the Milwaukee Road. This is almost like an ad from the late 1910s, early 1920s about the sort of Pacific Extension, which is pretty neat, and sort of shows a bunch of stuff regarding it. So go through a few of these, but essentially, yeah, it's like an ad that's basically showing you all of the different Milwaukee Road stuff. But I have all these uploaded to my Patreon if you want to see them. Let me see. There's a few more because I've been spending a lot of effort trying to find some of the actual like articles and stuff behind these things. Like there's some of New Haven stuff, or like that's okay, let's see if one of you can guess where this is, because this is a little confusing. I think if I gotta remember too, because there is one, two, three. No, there's 4 tracks there. Yeah, this is the Northeast Corridor. Where on the Northeast Corridor is this? Amtrak E60s will finally have a used freight lines. Yeah. Well, I will be talking about the E60s a lot. This is Princeton Junction. This is like Princeton Junction in like the 1940s. So it is the Northeast Corridor. It looks a lot different nowadays. Another New Haven diagram. This is just a not that old of a picture. There's a P5A, which is one of the early box cabs that PRR used up until I guess the early 60s, essentially. There's another box cab design for the New Haven. Here's some catenary designs. More catenary design stuff. And then there's a really in-depth catenary design, even down to how they designed the wires themselves, which is pretty cool. There's the original builder's mock-up of the GG1, or old rivets, I guess one of the first ones. That one's very crusty picture of that. Here's the one that everyone's seen, the map of all of the stuff that is electrified or was electrified. But one of you asked about Glassboro. So one of the things that most people don't know about is that Pennsylvania Railroad had like 3 sections essentially of electrification. They had the Northeast Corridor, or I guess 4. We could group it into 4. There was anything that touched the Northeast Corridor, essentially, which was the normal over 25 hertz stuff. Then you had the Long Island Railroad stuff, which was owned by the PRR. That was all third rail. And then you had the Harrisburg Division, which was all still overhead, very similar to the Northeast Corridor stuff. And then you had the last one. The last one is the one that no one knows about. And it's that a lot of this Pennsylvania Reading Seashore Line stuff used to be electrified in New Jersey. And the seashore stuff is interesting because it was more of like a testing ground for them, if anything. Let me find some of the stuff from that. So what I find interesting is that a lot of the South Jersey stuff never gets talked about, like at all. And it's like frustrating to me because some of the stuff was really cool. Um, this is where I actually grew up, or one of the towns I grew up in, because I live sort of in between Pittman and Glassboro. But you can see sort of here in this picture, in the center there, next to the fence or attached to the fence, sort of, that's the third rail. And there's a better one of the third rail you can see there. Um, these were, and this is Woodbury, so this is where it was triple tracked. One of them wasn't electrified, or maybe it was. I just can't see it. And then they had some tail tracks for like freight. But yeah, South Jersey used to have, and Pittman used to have, what was it? Two tracks and a siding. Because this is where the old station was, and the new station is going to be up here for the Glassboro Camden line. Eventually, in a lot of the South Jersey sections, they did dieselize in the late 40s, early 50s. So it turned into like a Baldwin holding two coaches, which is very goofy. That was an old render someone did. Um, there's Glassboro. These are kind of interesting because if you know anything about Pennsylvania Railroad stuff, these things are or look like MP54s, but they actually predate MP54s. They're basically the prototypes for MP54s, which is kind of unique. And these are even more unique because you can see they have the third rail pickup right there, but they also have trolley poles. And there's actually a story with the trolley poles. Let's see. There's another one. Wonder if you're going to do a video about the neck arrows. Yes, I will probably be invited when those come to Philly or sometime, I imagine. Because I'm friends with a few people in Amtrak that have allowed me to do too much, I think. So, story about these things. Fun story. Actually, let's go. We need a little bit more context. We need a map. We need a map. We need a map. Hey, Alan, do you have any advice advanced urbanism authoritarian states? Cheers from Russia. The best thing that I can say is that even if you don't have a direct democracy of some sort, you can still convince people that things are good. Because you can still, like, politicians are still people, or even people in power are still people. So even the most corrupt government of all time, you can still convince sometimes to do things. I know in Russia, one of the big things that is sort of frustrating there or happened was that Moscow got rid of all of their trolley buses and replaced them with battery buses, which is a very interesting decision when it's one of the coldest cities in Europe and battery buses don't do that well in the winter. So it's one of those things where someone convinced the politicians there to get rid of them. And I don't know why, but there is probably ways to convince people to either get them back or whatever you're thinking specifically, probably when it comes to traffic calming, infrastructure, whatever. The biggest thing that I find is when you have politicians or people in power that necessarily don't give a shit, is that you find their weaknesses for like the things that they compare themselves to. So, for example, here in Philadelphia, our mayor, our council people are not always the best when it comes to listening what people actually want or need. A lot of Philadelphia politicians are entirely driven by their own self-ego and own self, like, sort of image. And so if you can make someone like compare their ego with someone else and direct their energy towards something where it's like we compare someone in Philly to someone in, like, I don't know, of maybe a lesser city than us, and we say that lesser city is doing all of these things, how are they outdoing you? Like, you got to compare them in that way. And then these politicians or people in power would be like, you're right, we do need to outdo them. And then you can sort of make comparisons, and it's just all psychology, honestly, when it comes to dealing with people in power, and that's why it sucks. Um, but anyway, let's go back to the story real quick. Um, Advice on getting involved in advocacy within a political party. I would say that the best way to do that is just start hanging out and talking to a lot of people that are involved, and then try to get like into meetings and gatherings with those type of political parties stuff. And then the best thing that I can suggest is like, you will make friends or at least acquaintances with these people, and then get into those spaces. Even if you don't necessarily agree with those people, you can at least start to change their mind with things because you exist in their space. Computer gives Sherelle Parker a Napoleon complex. Parker, okay, so if I'm like in a political space in Philly, and if you listen to her, if you really listen to her, she does the same shit that like Trump does, where how she talks. She'll be like, my greatest city, the greatest city of all time, my greatest administration never fails me, and like she will deflect stuff by doing that. She will be doing something where it's like someone will call her out on like, I don't know, like bike lanes or something, and instead of like giving you an answer or giving you what she's doing, she'll be like, my streets department is the best. They're the best of all time. We got it. We're totally doing this. And then she'll go on like a tangent about like how a community is affected or something, how we need to be a community, and then like how our administration's being the best community, whatever. And she'll like deflect in that way. And if you ever listen to her, it's like, if you just imagine what you're listening to is not her, and it's like another politician that's more like right-wing Trump style, it's like, it's literally the same thing. But because she's someone from Philly, she's not going to quite get that comparison unless you're like really listening to her, which is kind of frustrating. Yeah, we need unity of our ministry. I can't even talk like her because she has such like an interesting accent when it comes to Philly. Because she's like from Roxborough area, which is like, for those not from Philly, that's like North Philly, north west almost Philly, in that direction. Which is basically a suburb at that point. It's one of the more suburban neighborhoods ish. Sherelle has a way of commanding a room I have kind of respect. Haven't personally been in a meeting with her, but a few of my coworkers have. Yeah, no, like she is like, as a speaker, she's really good at making people pay attention to her, and that's like what you have to do as a politician. But the problem is that there's so many politicians that are really good at making people pay attention to them, and then they have nothing good to say. There's no thoughts past, pay attention to me. There's no thoughts or ideas past, pay attention to me, I'm in charge. But then there's like nothing there, nothing of substance. And like, you have to somehow, if you have that type of person in office, you do need to either get them to listen to someone else that actually knows what they're talking about, or you need to attack their ego in a way where it makes them do something. I thought she was from West Oak Lane. Oh, maybe she lives in Roxborough nowadays and she was originally from West Oak Lane. Or maybe I'm getting confused. But I thought Roxborough, or one of the northern, I thought, was it? No, where am I thinking? No, I'm thinking, yeah, West Oak Lane, or there's a neighborhood next to West Oak Lane that I'm like, is there a neighborhood that starts with an R up there? No. I swear to, I think you're right though. She is from that area because she's like above, I always knew she was like above Fern Rock area. And that it was one of the more like Mount Airy, Germantown areas. She's from Mount Airy. She's above Mount Airy, I thought. Because that was one of the, that was, I think it was Ogant's Ave or Senton Ave, or however you say that, where she got stopped for a DUI. driving back from like somewhere in more a dense Philly place. Yeah. So somewhere around there, she got like stopped for DUI. Um, anyway, let me go. Let me go tell that South Jersey story. Where is it? So let's see. I'll read this one comment. One thing changed: allow agency boards. These have elected seats rather than governors appointing members. Some places do that, sort of. I think Vermont and New Hampshire have something similar to that, which kind of works. So anyway, so this is map. If you don't know this map, great map. This is Rail Guide. Totally recommend it. And people actively update this. Originally, this website started because there was some older website called something Rails, and it was like an old boomer like Web 1.0 site that had a bunch of boomers made KMZ files for Google Maps for different railroads, and it was like you had to download the KMZ. You then had to open it up in Google Earth, and then you could see the map. So someone took all of those files and put them into one site online, and that's what this is. It started out as that, but now they've been editing it so that it gets better and better. And it's not only just heavy rail, it's also light rail stuff and the L and other things like that. And if you flip it into what I like is classic mode, is you can see everything that used to exist. Like we have the Pennsylvania Railroad in the dark red or dark maroon, whatever you say, and then the redding in the green. And then if you zoom in, all these dotted lines, every single one of those, that was a trolley at some points. Philly had a lot of trolleys. And there's the B&O, because everyone forgets that we had actually 3 major railroads that came to Philly. The B&O also did. But the other thing is that on the South Jersey side, we had this guy, which was the Pennsylvania Reading Seashore Lines. And that was basically what covered most of South Jersey, except for the CNJ had a little bit of stuff. And so what we're talking about is that through this section, and you can kind of still tell that like there was electrification for the PRSL, because if you follow the main, which still exists, because this is the Glassboro-Camden line. I will get to that super chat in one sec. If you follow this line, which is going to be the Glassboro-Camden line, this was the main to go down to Vineland or Millville. And through here, you would get out of Camden, and then you go through Gloucester City. And then you keep going down further. Here, wait, let me show you one sec of... give me a tab. Google Maps, please, where are you? So... if you are, there we go. I'm waiting because I was gonna sneeze, but now I don't know. But okay, so here's Gloucester City, and if you ever, maybe, there we go. Okay. So if you ever go to Gloucester City and you look at some of the rail lines through here, whoops, maybe it's not that street. I think it's this one over here. If you ever look at some of the rail lines going through some of the sections of this part of South Jersey, you will notice something peculiar about some of it. You will notice, hey, why are those over the right-of-way? Why is that over the right-of-way? That's suspicious. And then if will this let us go back in time? Maybe not on this road, but we need to find a more major road. Let's see, yeah. One of these will allow me to. I think over here, yeah, they're still here. Yeah, look at those. Very suspicious. I wonder why. I wonder why those are there. So if we go back in time far enough, these turn into something more familiar to everyone. Oh, wow. That looks familiar. I wonder where else those are. That's typical Pennsylvania Railroad catenary design. And and they were replaced at some point. But I think it like, yeah, what is this, 2013? Yeah, between 2013 and 2018. Um, so you what you saw on the pictures I was showing you before, that those trains mostly ran on third rail through South Jersey. Um, that's partially true. Um, because if you look here, you're like, well, this is on the line far outside of Camden, and this is clearly overhead catenary at some point, and the trains use that. That's true. But we got to talk about um, where is it? So this section, leave Camden. Camden was all third rail pretty much up until Gloucester City here and like Brooklawn ish, and they continued it into Westville because there was a bunch of crossings. But they it originally electrified in 1904 or something ridiculously early. And in 1907 or something like that, Gloucester City, someone died or an animal got electrocuted or something, and the city straight up banned like third rail in the city. And so, it being early days of railroading, and the railroads were assholes, the PRSL was basically like, fuck you. We're not going to stop here. You got rid of our third rail, or you won't allow us to use the third rail. So they would get the trains up to about 60 miles an hour right before they hit like this street in Gloucester City. And then they would coast all the way through Gloucester City, pretty much through Brooklawn, and then pick up the third rail around here and keep going. And they did that for about a year and a half before it finally the city forced them to put in overhead catenary or trolley wire, and then they ran on the trolley wire through this section so that they could stop. The trolley wire was eventually extended from like here-ish all the way down to like here, so that like all these crossings did not have third rail. And then once it got to Woodbury, there's here, wait, let me get the thing back. Once it got to Woodbury, that's where the grade separation continued, or there was grade separation. Because if we go here, let's see, Woodbury. In Woodbury, there is grade separation, and for the most part, this line, like, yeah, you can see bridge, and if we go further down, where it starts crossing, there was like one section here where they still had the third rail, and the station's still there. There's your station, still here. They're working on it, looks like. Woodbury, it's now a little restaurant, but this, actually, let's try to get the same angle as that one picture I had before. Because I think that picture is taken from like here-ish. I love South Jersey and some of the older towns that have really cool buildings like this. These are all over Pennsylvania, where you have like the stone and the Tudor style, or Tudor. I guess you can't really see the station on this side. Yeah, so like, where is that picture? Where'd that picture go? Yeah, so this picture here, this is Woodbury. That's the Woodbury station. And then this is roughly the same spot, except like you can't quite get the same on Google Street View, but that's the same station and everything. Just obviously different angle. Like that street there is the station from the other, like, we're looking back at where the photographer would be somewhere up here. They also still have, which I think is funny. Does anyone know what this is? Does anyone know what that is? It's obviously part of the railroad, and I think it was in that picture. Yeah, there it is, right there in the picture. Anyone know what that is? Whoops. Where did it go? Crossing attendant, yes, correct. So back in the day, before like we had technology for crossing gates, they just had some guy that would just sit in here and he would manually lower and raise the crossing gates. And very few of these actually exist. I'm actually surprised the Woodbury one is still here. Um, but the crossing gates. So funny thing about the Northeast is that these right here are part of the reason why the Northeast has so many grade separations. Because if you went down certain railroads, and a lot of grade separations were eliminated at some point, but this was so common, and you needed to pay a guy. Which, dear Lord, if I'm a railroad, I have to pay a guy. They didn't. It was the cost was the cost of paying someone was that and dealing with that and dealing with cars and the liability of crossings was so high that the railroads would rather just pay to build a bridge and grade separate than pay a dude, which I think is really funny. They like the labor worked out so that it was cheap enough to build a bridge, that it was in the long run cheaper to have that than to pay a guy and have the liability of cars going over your railroad, which is very funny to me. That's why there's so much grade separation in the Northeast, which is like unheard of elsewhere in the country. Elsewhere in the country is catching up. Like for example, if we go switch back to here, if we go look at a lot of the Philly stuff, like it's really hard to like explain to someone Philly regional rail, because like this section here, like from Center City all the way up, like you go all the way up this through Wayne Junction, you're going all the way up the main line through here, through here, through here, through Jenkintown, pretty much until you're at Glenside. There is no grade crossings. So you can go pretty much from Glenside all the way down into Philly, and there is no grade crossings whatsoever. And that's like so uncommon for American infrastructure that's not in the Northeast. In the Northeast, we've just had this shit forever, and like they purposely spent a lot of money to avoid that kind of stuff. So like there is like grade crossings on the Jenkintown area, but like they're just utility stuff. Yeah, like there's one that's a bridge, but there's like a utility crossing somewhere like there-ish. Or I guess there's the first grade crossing past slightly past Jenkintown. But it's like, imagine explaining to someone in the Chicago area that your commuter rail is grade separated for like 15 miles out of your center of the city. Like Chicago is the notorious one for having this sort of Japanese style of 12 tracks. Your grade crossing is 12 tracks wide or some bullshit like that. And then the West Coast is like they're just catching up completely because they didn't have too much passenger service at the time when there was a lot of trains anyway. Pennsylvania is a very fun place because a lot of our infrastructure is so old. It's very whimsical looking in some areas. Like a lot of the bridges around here are old stone bridges and whatnot. Some of them have been exploded and replaced because you got to make the road bigger. But many of them are still some of the originals. Like I dragged Kaylee through the Wissahickon, and you can still see one of the original bridges for the Norristown line that they have, which is this cool stone viaduct with the electrification. Definitely, if you removed a lot of the signs from this and you were to explain to someone where this is, a lot of people would not guess that's the United States just from this picture. There's a grade crossing right after Union Station. Yes, there is in Chicago, so they need to work on that. Yeah, I do love the Wissahickon Viaduct. It's very good. Some of my other favorite ones are, if you're watching Big Boy on July 3rd when it arrives, it's going to be turning around on this Y before it comes into Center City because there's no place to turn around in South Philly. So I would say some of the best place to watch it is probably from the cemetery or from somewhere down around this area, because it's going to be going up on the Y and then backing down the other side of the Y. So anywhere around here, really good spot. But honestly, as long as you're before the Y too, you'll see it come in the front, essentially. So the Manayunk Bridge, another good spot to watch it. Anywhere along this where there's like a pedestrian stuff, Like at these places right here, probably the top of this parking garage would be pretty good to watch it come in, um, or somewhere around here. The city Ave bridges. Is there a pedestrian thing on this? If there is, I would hate to fucking walk on that. I guess there is. Where does that go? Not anywhere, I guess. Um, or I guess it does go somewhere. Oh, I would hate to cross. Is oh no, oh no, oh no. That is go die zone. Oh no. That I pity the people that have to use that. Oh my god. Um, yeah, because I guess if you live at one of these and you really want to walk, oh no, you need to cross over one of what the fuck? Why is this even here? Like what? Because that's where it ends up, and then where do you go? Do you just oh some person climbs the side of this? Oh, that would suck. That is a great example of just a little bit of infrastructure that's missing to just make something slightly better. Ooh. Technically it has pedestrian access, but we were working on a detour Falls Bridge replacement, had to send pedestrian spike traffic way down. Yeah. This section of the city, is it even part of the city? Yeah, this is, because because it's after, yeah, it's barely in the city. It's the city Ave, literally. Um, my biggest hot, maybe not so hot take is Bala Kinwood and like the upper and lower Derby should just be part of the city. Um, but like, if you told a Bala Kinwood person that they should be part of Philly, they would probably explode. Um, Same with like this section down here. Like this section should also probably be part of the city. Also, it's really fucking goofy that the airport is split in half and only half of the airport is in the city. That's very funny to me. I wish Philly and the state would be more. Also, this section right here. Like, why is Cheltenham not? Why is this chunk missing? Annexation of Balakinwood. Yeah, honestly, that whole neighborhood. If this whole neighborhood, like if this whole section right here was included in Philly, our like tax base would. Yeah, just insane tax revenue from that section. Um, what time do you expect Big Boy to arrive at the Y? Hold on. Someone actually sent me some info so I can share that with y'all. Um, Let me see. Where is that? Where is that message? Where's my boy's message? Uh, there it is. So Big Boy will depart Abrams Yard. So let's go over this. Um, okay, I'm not clicked on Philly. Let's turn off transit. So Big Boy is coming to Abrams Yard down here. It's probably parking somewhere. I don't know. It's probably parking some. I don't think it's going to be on display here, but it's probably parking somewhere near the office because like they're going to watch that shit. No one's eyes are leaving that thing. um, so it's parking here in Abrams Yard. It's leaving Abrams at 9 o'clock, and then the next point of arrival is at 10:30. Let's see, 10:30 it should be. So between 9 o'clock it will take, I guess, an hour and a half to get down this, down to here, and then it should get to here around between 10:30 and 11:30. It will show up here, and then from here it leaves here and it goes down and goes across this bridge across the Schuylkill. So if you want a really good spot though, look, you can sit in the bleachers here and watch it go across. Another good, and then it will go up here through Fairmount, through this Y, and then down next to the Fairmount neighborhood, and then under Pennsylvania Ave, And once it's under Pennsylvania Ave, it'll break off, and there's a tunnel under the Art Museum here that then goes over to the Schuylkill Trail right here. And you can kind of, should have a, yeah. So you'll see there's the tunnel up here next to Schuylkill Trail. So this is honestly the whole part of the Schuylkill Trail. This section is going to be fucking nuts. There's going to be so many people here. And the people that don't know what's going on, they're going to be, why are there so many people here? And then this train will just roll by. It'd be the loudest thing they've ever heard. Or at least if the whistle goes off. And so it will get to Park Junction, which that's what this is here, right? Park Junction at 11:50 to 12 o'clock. And then Penrose. Penrose is the bottom down here. So it's apparently going to take a really long time to get through the city. So they're not going to go fast. It will apparently get to the part of the Navy Yard down here at around 3 o'clock. So I assume that's just a guesstimation probably. But I don't think it'll take 3 hours for it to go through that section. There is a tracker for Big Boy. There is a tracker for it. So if you want to know where it is. It takes a while to load. Yeah, it's still in Scranton. Currently staying there. But this is the official route that they have on the UP website. You can sort of see how it's going to come in. I think it's very funny that they only show Norfolk Southern and UP trackage. That's what's in the red. And so technically when it comes down on this, that's not UP trackage, that's or NS, that's Conrail shared assets. But yeah, that's, if you want to see where it is, that's a great website for it. But anyway, I'm going to be really excited, honestly, just to be on the Schuylkill River Trail and to watch people's reaction to it. That will be my favorite thing in this section. Also, to hear a steam whistle in Center City. It's been 40 years, pretty much, since the last time a steam engine has visited Center City. The last one was Reading 2102 when it was on an excursion. You build a subway in mode to split the... if you could build a new subway in what mode and area would you build it? In Philly, I assume you mean by that? Also, let me get back to the super chat. I meant to get that earlier. I gotta like it on here. My bad. I meant to get to that super chat. Glideways updated the look of their pods. It looks a little bit better, but now they're targeting Atlanta, and I think they replaced the airport's Aerotrain. Is Glideways that weird, like... Are they the gondola people? Oh. Worse. I don't understand these companies. I don't, like... Okay, you have a tech for a self-driving car, right? If you really believe in that tech for a self-driving car, just put this self-driving shit in a bus. Just, like, rig a new flyer with a bunch of cameras and whatever this fucking needs, and just have the new flyer drive itself if you really believe in this shit. Why the fuck are you bothering with pods? Like, I don't get it. Like one whatever XD40 something could probably hold the same as however many, like more than a dozen of these pods. Like, just why? Just use a bus. Like, this never happens like this. It's always really fucking slow. Because, like, if you ever see, like, autonomous cars or vehicles park at some of these stations, they always come in as slow as possible. And so, this is never as graceful as it shows. Goofy. Also, if you're going to grade separate, just, like, build a monorail or train. Why... Yeah, if you're going to build a fixed guideway system... Why bother with the pods? Like, and they're also battery operated. Like, you're gonna have to... These companies should just build normal shit. Like, I never understand why they always want to reinvent shit from the ground up. Just make a better version of something that already exists. 10,000 people per hour. That's actually kind of achievable with just cars. 10,000 people per hour is not that high. Looks like a bastardization of Detroit. No, this is what this is. This is the Heathrow people, Heathrow pod shit, just Americanized. But at least the Heathrow one, that's not autonomous. That's just following some like guideway tracks, essentially. Like the Heathrow one is stupider, or stupider in a good way than this, um, because these are fully autonomous, where the Heathrow one sort of follows paths generally. Morgantown, yeah, Morgantown, like we figured this shit out in the 70s that this doesn't quite work that well with the Morgantown PRT. I don't understand why people keep trying this stuff. Just make a big transit vehicle, because the second you get a wave of people from a plane or from something, okay, now you have 30, 40 people waiting for something, and you have the dinky ass pod that holds 6 people. Why the fuck would you not just have a bus? I never understand why. Yeah. Let's see, what is this one? K North extension in LA was nearly screwed because it ran under one of LA Metro Board members. Oh yeah, no, I remember reading this. Funny, we also have someone in Philly with the last name Bass that's also a dickhead that we have to deal with. But yeah, that whole LA stuff. I'm glad that people pushed back. Also, our bravest soldier, Nandart. If you don't watch YouTube much about LA Transit, I totally recommend a channel called Nandart, or Nick Andert. He's great. He also obviously worked in like some video production stuff beforehand, because he can crank that shit out and it looks great. It's not totally my style, because I like to be a little bit more chaotic, but his videos are polished and he can make them in a surprisingly short amount of time. Totally recommend his channel. His channel's just his like first initial and then his Nandert. Up. LA. Oh my god. Why is this not coming up? YouTube. Why are you not showing me his? Am I spelling it wrong? I'm typing no. Oh. My bad. Yeah, this channel's great. If you have not watched this channel, go watch this channel. I'm trying to remember what stuff I've watched of his that's really great. Oh, the whole LAX thing. This LAX video is fantastic. His channel, some of his videos get a lot of views and other ones don't get much views at all, which is really like tough, because he did 26 minutes and it's like a long an hour, and it's like a whole well edited video. He puts so much effort into these things. I need to do a video with him at some point, because I was originally going to do a video about the what's it called, the trench, I'm forgetting the name, the freight trench. Why am I forgetting the name of it? One of Alameda Trench, that's it. Yep. I have stuff on the Alameda Trench written, and it was actually in response to a Wendover video that I kind of hated, but I wanted to redo that, because sort of it was a clapback at Wendover in like I hated that video and I was just gonna rag on it, but now I was like rewriting it, because I essentially wanted to make it sort of like, hey, channels like Wendover and Half As Interesting kind of suck, because they legitimize AI videos because they get stuff wrong. And so the difference between their video and an AI video script is not that different. And so it legitimizes other shitty videos that are actually made with AI versus theirs, because you can just copy their editing style, because their editing style is what I would call it, and a lot of these channels fall into the same thing. Their editing style is what I would describe as Skillshare-esque, where it feels like someone learned how to edit in Adobe After Effects, and that's their style. And so a lot of those channels all look very similar. Yeah, Jetlag's fine. He's definitely better at that kind of stuff. He's not as good at the actual like infrastructure video stuff because he doesn't care. Like you can tell there's some videos he cares. He cares about like regional goofy airports in the middle of nowhere and like I don't know, like weird tax stuff when it comes to airlines, but like when it comes to other stuff, you can tell that like he doesn't care too much and he just needs to make like a topic of a video and he kind of gets a little interested, but that's like that you can always tell when someone's a real fucking dork and nerd versus someone who's just like researching the thing and writing about it. Like you just know. I know my audience is aware of that kind of stuff. Like you know when someone's faking and someone's or not faking, but you know when someone's trying to just write something about a topic versus the person that just info dumps shit. There will never be a better video than the guy that just info dumps shit in like a PowerPoint slide on YouTube and it's like 2 hours long. There is no better video than that kind of thing. Like one of my favorite channels is Greg's Automobiles and Airplanes, or I think that's his channel. His channel is essentially that. It's some old dude that just info dumps for like 40 minutes about an airplane. Fantastic channel. Let's see, where am I gonna go back to? Here, let me actually, because this is a great map, so I can look at it forever. Let's actually look at the LA area, because I like finding random shit sometimes via these maps. But this Alameda corridor is what we were talking about right here, where it's the trench. You can zoom in, and you can see, whoop, maybe not zoom, satellite. Why does it open up a whole different window now? That's weird. Anyway, there's the trench. That's what I'm talking about. That's the trench. That's the video that I'm meaning to do a video about eventually. Lucid Stew's pretty decent. I think his... It's not that he has bad political views, he just has very interesting political views to me because of the way he presents. I think he's very... he's not very pro or against some things. He'll just be very much like hypothetical. And I almost like am annoyed by that in some way, but also it's fine. It's a different style. Yeah, Gareth Dennis is also very good too. What's this? Remember I-4 ultimate thing F-Thought pursued, hoping fix traffic. Made a video about I-4 as well as I-95 and he goes scorch earth. Yes. Also, speaking of F-Dot, or Florida DOT, the whole thing with JTA, I need to touch at some point because JTA, if you don't know, is Jacksonville's Transit Authority, and they have a whole thing on driverless pods and stuff like that, and it's just frustrating. And they're still dumping money into it when they should be dumping money into just anything else at this point. Because I think, like, have you read his book? No, I need to read Gareth's book. But yeah, F-Dot has a lot of stuff that's screwed up, to say the least. Florida has so much money, and they're going to be running out of it at some point. Oh yeah, no, I know Ethan. Ethan's a good friend of mine. Also, Marcus in our Discord, he can go on about JTA forever because he grew up in Jacksonville. And when you ask Marcus about JTA, the first thing he will do is sigh. And then he'll be like, I know. Remember Lucid Stew chose to bypass... Yeah, he chose to bypass Philly and have the high-speed line intersect with Patco, which was really dumb. Yeah, he seems to put a lot of... Yeah, his priorities about how to design stuff are definitely different from the average, or some it varies wildly from some people that I've interacted with when how they look at high speed rail. Most of his stuff I agree with, but there's definitely some stuff that I don't. Um, oh wait, um, let's see. Whoops, where is my mouse? There it is. Do you have an opinion of Winnipeg or specific transit overhaul that would be an interesting vid? Definitely a cool case study. Well, let's go up to the north then. Yeah, Lucis Steer likes to bypass it. I don't like that. Um, um, Lucid Steer, yeah, I very much am a big proponent of going into the middle of a city because it like helps with the city. Um, what's this orange thing? What is this? Oh, it's BNSF. Okay. Oh, it's the one place where BNSF interacts with Canada. Um, yeah, there's very few places where BNSF actually legally crosses over into Canada. The other is Vancouver. Um, and tiny little stub, whatever that the fuck this is. What is this? This has to be a power plant, right? What is this? Oh, it's a farm? Grain elevator. Okay, so some just big ass grain elevator. Got it. Interesting. Um, let's see. Yeah, because I don't know. Satellite. I mean, Winnipeg could probably copy just something like Calgary has done, where they have like the light rail system there, because they're very similar cities in my opinion. But I don't necessarily know the routing of how you would do it. I honestly just seeing this is Winnipeg's biggest problem is just how many downtown parking lots there are. Also, cool. You all have the original station still. That's neat. Somehow you have a better station than some other very major Canadian cities. um, you guys have a better station than Montreal. Y'all have a better station than what? Um, Quebec City. You have a better station than what would it be? Yeah, that's pretty cool. I assume it's probably not the whole thing is the train station. That's sick though. Yeah, this ain't bad. Too bad it probably only gets two trains a day or less. Yeah, because the what's it called? The Canadian only runs like 3 days a week, right? Or something like that. Um, otherwise, yeah. I mean, the biggest problem with Winnipeg, just from a glance, is obviously all the parking lots. Like, if you just fill all this stuff in, that's the one thing is that a lot of people can move to these cities, and you have a lot of land to develop at least. Um, one of the tougher parts is when you have a city that's already pretty dense and then it becomes popular and a bunch of people move there and then you can't really build new stuff unless you knock down old things. Um, so yeah, I'll have to look at that a little bit more in depth, but I assume the right of way would either follow some of these very thick boy roads or some older right of ways that probably still exist. Like from a glance, probably this guy would be a good option because I guarantee that's a redundant line at this point, or something of that nature. Yeah. Here, let me answer. Whoops. Get that one. Wamatavid, Clark era, very overdue. I got banned from a Discord server. Um, wanted to say that sorry for my paper, wanted to do better. Okay, I'll talk to the mods about that. But yeah, Randy Clark is an interesting figure. I think that for the most part, Wilmata, and if I for some reason ever moved to DC, um, I would definitely be excited to use WMATA because it's one of the best systems in the country currently because of how well it's run. Um, and Clark is a large reason why. Basically, if you put a nerd in charge of a transit agency, surprise, surprise, it generally runs pretty well. Many such cases, like with David L. Gunn, or with what's his there's some that aren't necessarily like as obvious, like the one guy that's head of the T at the moment. He was from Long Island Railroad, so not necessarily like a nerd necessarily, but he has a lot of experience. Or like trying to think of other how could I forget Andy, the train daddy guy for New York, who is now working for Amtrak on some of their high speed projects. I assume he's just a lobbyist at this point. LGVs bypass smaller cities, but there's flying junctions to allow TGVs into the existing. Yes, that's also a good option. Generally, I don't like that though, because like if you're gonna build a line, try to build it relatively close. Otherwise, like smaller cities might get left out eventually because they're just deemed not worthy of the train stopping there. There are reasonable answers, but do you have a sporadic? But do you have sporadic service when people start asking why do we have service at all? Yeah, I mean that is so. I think there is a great disservice that a lot of North American cities and places do. And this is not talking about high-speed rail. This is just talking about rail generally. Where, and this is probably a Winnipeg example also, is since the Canadian only stops here like 3 days a week. The average person would say, why would I take the train? It's really inconvenient. It only stops a few times a week in the direction I want to go, and it takes a lot longer than driving or flying. And so then the average person forms a very negative view of trains. And yeah, that can be detrimental, which is frustrating. The other thing is that what is it? The other thing, a boomer brought this up to me a while back, and this is actually a very good boomer point that they brought up, which was that sometimes railroad museums are not actually a good thing to have, because if you're running if someone's experience is the if someone's only experience of riding trains is going to a railroad museum, they're going to then believe that trains are an old thing that doesn't need to come back, especially if they are riding like old railroad cars, and because museums don't usually have a lot of money, the track quality is going to be really terrible, so the maximum speed they're going to go is maybe like 20-25 miles an hour. And so the average person is going to think like, why would I ever invest in this? This is old school tech. This is obviously crappy, et cetera, et cetera. And so like I can sort of see how if a person's only experience with trains is a museum, then they could think like that. But obviously I love museums otherwise. Many good museums. I think the best one in the US, or at least one of the best ones, is probably IRM. If you have not been there, I totally recommend it. Yeah. If you're in the Chicago area and have the ability to go here, go here. Definitely one of the best rail museums in the country, if not the best. Yeah, ridiculous place. Ridiculous amount of equipment. I mean, they have a turbine. They need to repaint that probably, but bunch of cool stuff here. And the electroliner. That came from SEPTA, or back from SEPTA to them. But yeah, I think that's the one thing, is that like you have to remember when you're approaching the average person about trains in general, is that the average person's experience with riding a train is very little to, if any, and maybe a lot of Americans or North Americans' experience with riding a train is the only train they've ever ridden is at a museum or a theme park or something like that. And so you have to get like past that sort of stigmatism where you have to convince someone that this stuff is worth it, and that's really difficult. Um, or at least it can be. So like, trying to think of a good example. Like for me, I was very lucky because I grew up in an area in the Northeast that had trains, and even as a kid, we would take Patco into Philly, and I, as a kid, even saw that was like really cool, and it got you faster into the city than like driving from that location. But not everyone has that experience. Not everyone in North America, especially in smaller or medium-sized cities, in not in the Northeast or more metropolitan areas of like Canada or whatever, you won't have that kind of stuff. And so it is a challenge to get, it is more of a challenge to get trains in places where they have never existed or haven't existed for a long time for passenger service than a place that does already have them, and then you say, let's improve this. So that's the tough part. If you take a look at transit overhaul, then Google it. I just complete redesign network, first in the world, I think. Yeah, I mean that whole section of Canada, I wish had better service, not only with like intercity rail, but like just intra-city stuff. At least I know Calgary and Edmonton are trying to build something between them, and then they're also trying to fix some stuff up, at least. But I don't. Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff, and when you're in a place like Winnipeg, it's very difficult in that you don't have something you can directly point to and be like, we should do that, and the average person would understand. You really have to like convince people or show them the options, essentially. But what was I gonna say? I can't go forever today because I do need to go do something in a little bit, but I'll take a few more questions and then we'll wrap up if that works. Let's see. My family volunteers for the Oil Creek and Titusville Railroad in Titusville. Oh yeah, that's a cool one. I've been there a long time ago. Have you ever been to the Upper Peninsula, and would you ever go there? I need to go there. Actually, I was browsing the Upper Peninsula for a while because I was just curious. And there's a dinky railroad in the Upper Peninsula. I don't know if you know this. I found it. It is the goofiest shit. It is right here. So like Upper Peninsula, right? Right here. There is a railroad that is between the port here and a limestone mine, and that's it. And it's the goofiest looking, like, hold on. Yeah, like it is. Okay, so you guys are not ready for this. Let me find the video on this thing again, because it is ridiculous to say the least. It has cab cars. Hold on. You guys, you need to see this video. It's wild. Let me find it. I need to find this. Why am I opening it in my... Hold on. Have you ridden Pacers at the British Heritage Museum yet? Not yet. I would like to, though. Need to get over there. I mean, hopefully this fall. Otherwise, next year, definitely. Memories of going from NYC to Princeton Junction were such more pleasant than driving. Yeah, no, going to NYC, anything besides a train is ridiculous. Winnipeg, Churchill is a neat service. Guess you're more likely to take that train in a rare case. True, especially going up the Churchill direction during winter. I can't even imagine. All right. You guys aren't ready for this fucking train. You aren't ready for this train. This thing is nuts. Okay. This random foamer channel, but you aren't ready for this thing. You're not ready. That is a cab car on a hopper. Also, track quality. And then God's shittiest Jeep, I think, is on the back of these. I love these things so much. This is such a ridiculous railroad. Oh, I guess it's an SD, not a Jeep. Um, but I love that they don't turn around. They just either have the locomotive or the weird cab car on the back. And there's like multiple. This is like a strange. They have multiple consists of these at this railroad, even though it's not that long. Um, I think it's because they want to try to load the ships as fast as possible. So whenever a ship shows up, they fire up both of these consists and then go back and forth. This looks like some unknown Chinese industrial railway. Yeah, it kind of does look like that. Like, here, I go forward. Like, these are so funny. Also, is that a... This was probably an SD45 at one point. It's probably derated now, but it's got the flared back on it. So funny. It is a contraption. Contraption's the only way to describe this thing. Like, I love that it has a cab car. It's so stupid. I was like really bored one night just browsing the Upper Peninsula. I'm like, why is there a railroad in the middle of nowhere? And I looked this up. I'm like, well, this is insane. It has no grade crossings except for whatchamacallit. It has no grade crossings except for like industrial stuff that it interacts with anyway in the mine, so it doesn't really need to be FRA certified. Such a strange train. The cab car gets me. These are so ridiculous. Like, they're obviously custom built. Like, some car builder one-off these. Also, the solar panel on the roof is sending me... like... these things are ridiculous. I love them so much. Is there another shot of the cab car in the back? No, there's not in this video. But, like, strange contraption. I love finding stuff like that, because it's just like, of course there's some dinky railroad in the Upper Peninsula that uses cab car hoppers. Like, okay, sure. Yeah, no, this one, I don't think it has any grade crossings, or at least accessible. Yeah, even the little dinky, like, dirt road is, oh, there's surprisingly, yeah, even the little dinky dirt road has a grade crossing, because legally they'd have to, because the FRA. Yeah, whatever, that's the name of it. Caramus, or whatever, something railroad. But it's just for that mine. For this limestone mine. Just takes it from there, goes all the way down to the port, dumps it into a dumper, and then gets loaded on a ship. It's very open TTD. Car builder. I bet that was done by two guys in the case of beer, which is how many car builders are is it's two guys in a shed, or maybe multiple guys in a shed, building stuff that just happens to work. There's a surprising amount of interesting things up here. This whole section up here, if you browse with like old railroad stuff, very cool. The Marquette area and anything up here, some very cool stuff. Also, there used to be 1 billion logging railroads and copper mine railroads up here too. This whole section here, you can kind of see the like veins essentially that go here, and then like this whole section here, just copper mining, and the railroads up here are entirely to get the copper from here to Duluth and then take them out of Duluth. I like the little electric freight railroad in Labrador City, which... Oh, that's the one... Did these get... Yes. I think I know where this is, right? No, it's the one up there. Okay. So I think... If I remember correctly... a local company in Pennsylvania built some locomotives for them quite recently. Because let's see, there's gotta be... Oh. I guess the catenary doesn't start until you get further up. Also, hello. It's gotta be better angle of that somewhere. But yes, I have seen that Brookville did build some equipment for them, if I remember correctly. Um, the strangest one for me is actually there's one in Pennsylvania that's really tiny. If you are in the Philly area, I have not seen footage of this running yet. So some farmer has to go get it at some point. But along the main line, so this is main line right here, sort of uh, Coatesville, Downingtown, Thorndale. In Coatesville, giant steel mill in Coatesville, right? Um, there's your Keystone Corridor, which is also very Pennsylvania core, because we have giant stone viaduct in the back. Um, but if you go down in this section this way in the steel mill, down the valley, there's this section which is next to one of the blast. I think it's one of the blast furnaces or slag, whatever. And they have to push cars through. But you'll notice, hey, what's all this stuff? There's actually like weird electric remote locomotives that they run in here for some reason. So I've never seen footage of the operation here. I've seen the weird locomotives that they have, which are like these weird like yellow painted drone locomotives. They're weird. And they have two poles, so they don't interact with the ground as they're negative, which is weird. I've never seen a video of this operation. I would love to see it at some point, or like, because yeah, this whole section here has like catenary over it, or at least this section here, and then I think this section might also. I'm not entirely sure, but I've seen pictures of the locomotives that went here. Very odd, strange. This whole section of the main line is very cool. I love Coatesville. Coatesville is one of the most Pennsylvania towns possible. Like, whoops, go back here. Coatesville is very Pennsylvania core, where it's like beautiful, tiny little downtown, and it's kind of just been struggling for years, and now is finally get redevelopment as people have moved further out from the cities. Yeah, like just any Pennsylvania, you go into any Pennsylvania town, it's just the cutest fucking thing. Like, you wonder why everyone models like the Pennsylvania Railroad and stuff in the New England area. It's like that's why. It's all the towns look like that. Also, if you ever want to entertain yourself, just go around this section of Pennsylvania here in Lancaster County and look at any of the town names. Most crazy town names ever. I mean, everyone knows about this one, of course. But strangest town names in this area. Like, where's my favorite? My favorite is... I can usually find it. It's around here somewhere. If I'm going to have to search it, I'm going to be annoyed. There's also just Gap. Yeah, I love Gap. You know why it's called Gap? It's because there was a little gap in the mountain where the railroad runs. Why can I not find 9 points? No, that one's a good one. There's just here. Where is it? Yes, one of my favorite town names, Bird in Hand. Why? Sure. Also along the Keystone Corridor. There's so many good town names out here. Yeah, Intercourse is also near, if I remember correctly, it's near Blue Ball, Pennsylvania, which is also near Intercourse. Like this whole section of the state is just so fucking goofy when it comes to names. I love it. Like it's either I love Pennsylvania towns because half of them are called stuff like this, where it's like Millersville, where it's like some guy that was named that, or there's one that's called like Lime Valley. Like I wonder what they did there. Probably lime mining at some point. Or like there's probably a forge there at some point. I love, yeah, it's so goofy. And then half of them are just names taken from elsewhere, like Manaheim. So, but yeah, it is 4:30, and I probably need to get going. So, I will take like one more question or so, and then I'll have to head out. Oh my god, excuse me. Town names get even better once you go west toward Appalachia. Yeah, there's a bunch out there that are really good. Anything that's like in the western part of Pennsylvania near like Oil City is pretty good. I heard a rumor that Bird in Hand was a name because guy from the railroad who was in charge of the naming the town looked and saw a farmer with a bird in his hand. That, I mean, it's Pennsylvania. That doesn't surprise me if that's actually the story. Um, there's a bunch of towns that are like that where they have like ridiculous names because of something. This whole section, if you ever get the time to ride the Keystone out in this direction, beautiful towns. And if you get to stop in some of them, like Lancaster is probably one of the best underrated urbanism cities in the US, like hands down. If you go anywhere, you just pick a street randomly, it's like ridiculously cool, tiny little street and like row homes and everything. Like you can just randomly pick a street in Lancaster and it's gonna be good. Like let's go here. Like it's basically Philly, but just you have two-way roads essentially. Um, it's such a good little city. It's the same with like yeah, like beautiful, tiny, cute, whatever. Like these places are awesome. People hate on Harrisburg. Harrisburg is the same way. You go in Harrisburg, you go in one of these neighborhoods over here, be cute as fuck. Like you take a picture of that, people think it's Philly. Like I said, Harrisburg is also cool as shit because it's like the state capital, and even though I like hate politicians, this kind of goes hard. Like I gotta admit, like that at least. If you ever want to ride the Keystone just here, it's honestly a really cool experience, especially because like this is one of the biggest train sheds in the U.S. still in use. Like, oh, come on, let's go down out of here. Yeah, like this is cool. Like you end up in like a very like European style train shed. Also, there's a GG1 that's covered up under one of these train sheds. Cool station. I guess they're redoing it in this picture. Or hello, rabbit or cat. I guess that one is. There's another one that's called rapid rabbit or something like that. Harrisburg Station's pretty neat. Are you worried? Let's see. We'll do this last one. Are you at all worried about Siemens is getting too many rolling stock contracts in the U.S.? Wouldn't it be better if it's Alstom, Stadler were competing similar levels? Alstom's going to get contracts. They have a ton of stuff. They bought Bombardier. Stadler is smaller, but they're going to get contracts just because they're good. Stadler is probably one of the best. And then honestly, the thing that kills me the most is that Wabtec, who used to be GE, and Progress Rail, who used to be EMD, they just aren't trying. Like EMD kind of tried, and they made the F-125, which only went to what's it called? LA's commuter rail, and they weren't that good. Apparently, they already need rebuilds or something. So, like, I wish that Wabtec and Progress Rail actually tried. Because if they did, then a lot of the locomotive orders would probably go to them instead. Or, hey, GE used to even build passenger cars. They built SEPTA Silverliners or the Silverliner 4s. And yeah, Brookville. Yeah, that would be my policy if I was president. Give Brookville $2 billion and be like, do whatever the fuck you want. Just develop something. Yeah, I just wish that's pretty basic of like, if you visit our country, would you do meetups with local advocates? Yes, of course. It's just it takes a lot of energy to plan that stuff out, but if I get over to somewhere, yes, I'll try to do that. But yeah, has anything new happened with the GCL? Not that I've heard. Miami streets around Wisconsin. Oh yeah, Madison's very beautiful. Eventually need to get there. But yeah, farmer holding an owl, and that's funny. If you go somewhere else, Colorado, insane and wacky transit system. Oh, in Colombia, excuse me, not Colorado. But yeah, I will try to be streaming sometime early next week, because I don't know if Sundays will work necessarily because of timing with how I visit my girlfriend and other people, but sometime early next week, I need to find like a day that's the day that's going to be the streaming day at night, and we'll figure that all out. Otherwise, yeah, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully this was a chill midday something something just to catch up. But yeah, I will hope to see you guys next week, and have a good weekend. Hopefully stay cool if it's going to be pretty hot in certain places. So yeah. Um, yeah, let's see. Otherwise, there's always, if you want discussion and everything like that, obviously we have the Discord. Definitely recommend posting in there, or on social media. If you just post something and then tag me in it, I can usually get to it if I'm not too busy. Otherwise, yeah, have a good weekend, and we'll see you all around.